Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houstion. Tonight you guys are listening to an interview being done for Under the Influence. It's my great pleasure to be speaking with bass player Ricky Dizz Hammock. And Ricky is the bass player from Los Angeles-based Duran Duran Tribute Band, Planet Earth. How are you doing tonight, Ricky?
Great, Jason. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, I got to tell you, talking to a guy that typically listens to metal and hard rock, but like a lot of people, who isn't familiar with all those great Duran Duran 80s tunes? So, like I was going to ask you, how did you first become a Duran Duran fan?
Well, that started back in '82 with their first single, Planet Earth. It came out. It was great bass groove, great vocal line, just very cool. And they just kind of followed their career and always really liked songs with great bass grooves, and they always have that.
Wow! And so that's pretty cool. That you chose to name the band after like the first song that you were exposed to by the band.
Yeah, it just fit. I just always thought that was a great name for a band. And, it's such a wide reference. There's so many things that can be referred to in the Planet Earth terms.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. Would you say that you were equally influenced by the band Duran Duran as much as was John Taylor at all an influence on you as far as your bass playing?
Oh, absolutely. The tone that he puts out, his playing style. I've always really liked funk grooves, disco type of bass players. But that's not necessarily my background.
Yeah.
Kind of at this point is where kind of the direction I've gone.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I was curious. How long has Planet Earth been together as a band?
We started the band in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, 2012. So we're fairly new to the scene.
And now let me ask you, because in looking for bands to interview, I'm always researching bands, and I of course came across your band, and there's another one, Rio, and I think there's a couple more like throughout Europe. But are you surprised that there aren't more Duran Duran tributes around?
Well, I'm thankful that there aren't more Duran Duran bands. We coexist in the Duran Duran tribute space with Rio. We get along, we support each other, and there's plenty of room for everybody. They can't play every venue every night, and nor can we.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because again in researching bands to interview and stuff. I mean, I've come across, there's of course half a dozen Led Zeppelin and countless AC/DC tributes all around the world, and so it's always nice when you're putting together a tribute band to have like a little something special. I think the fact that there aren't that many Duran Duran tributes out currently, you guys really got something going here.
I agree with you, Jason, and it's been tremendous to response and the quick growth that we've experienced, and it just keeps snowballing. And I consider us to be an up-and-coming band still.
Yeah.
So I'm just very thankful for every opportunity we get, and the fans just seem to, like it. So I'm very thankful for all of that.
Yeah, and let me ask you, when you how did you first get the idea to put this band together? I mean, was this somebody else's project that you joined? Did you have the idea to form a band? How did this all come together?
Well, it started in October of 2012. I had a disco, and we played 70s disco and 80s new wave music, exclusively. It was a cover band, not a tribute band. We played an LA after show party for LFL Guitar and Van Nuys, and there was all these big heavyweight rocker guys and Don Jam playing for hours, and we had booked a 4-song mix set, and we got up with our truck jam. We played Little Earth, Wind and Fire, and a couple other new wave songs, and as soon as we played Hungry Like a Wolf, every person on the place just blocked the stage. That's the only song all night anybody did that.
Wow.
So I was driving home, and I told my road manager, I'm starting a Duran Duran tribute to it. And the next day I did.
And so, let me ask you, that next day, how long did you already kind of have the band in place as far as that other band it kind of morphed into this?
Well, it's another good story in that, I live in a small community, and there's a fair amount of musicians in our community, but I wanted to branch and reach outside my circle of friends.
Uh-huh.
So I made it a point not to put anybody in the band that I was familiar with. I wanted all new talent. I was looking for people that could resemble the members of Duran Duran, and as luck would have it, the hardest person to find was the first person to find. That was in 48 hours that we had.
Wow.
And that's my Simon LeBon, David Prince, and just an amazing talent. Amazing.
Wow.
And Duran Duran is lifelong favorite band.
Well, and so let me ask you, once you got all the musicians in place, how long did it take everybody to kind of, get to the point of being able to play these songs where you felt, okay, it's time to hit the stage and, try to do our first show?
That took a year and a half between finding the last member, which was the keyboard player,
Uh-huh.
to getting on a stage with it. Yes, about a year and a half.
Yeah, wow.
And it's still a progression.
Yeah, and what I love about what you're doing is, I'm sitting here looking at your Facebook page as we're talking, and I can the photos for one are very professional looking, and I love the fact that like you said, you got guys that really look the part. I mean, that's what I love about bands like this. It's more than just five guys in their jeans and t-shirts get up on stage and just playing Duran Duran songs. I love the fact that you guys go to you're that dedicated. You go to that much work to really look the part and sound the part. I mean, really give people a night to remember, so to speak.
Well, we're very fortunate that we're booked exclusively by MC Tribute,
Mm-hmm.
and they give us a lot of direction and guidance, and we've taken it to heart. We don't find their principles in band, and it just works, and it is hard finding those period pieces of clothing and those period instruments, but once you find them, you got them, and it just pays off the stage.
And let me ask you, have you actually ever had the experience of seeing the real Duran Duran in concert, and what was that like for you?
Well, it's funny that you should mention that. I'll be honest with you, I have not seen Duran Duran other than on live performance stage.
Yeah.
My wife is a diehard Duran fan and seen him about 8 times. My singer's seen him the same amount. Me personally have not, and I'm actually going to go see him for the first time when they get Bollywood Bowl.
Wow, that's cool. So what's it like having a fan that's such a, wife that's such a huge Duran Duran fan? She must love coming to these shows.
She actually does, and she was one of the big reasons why I even started it, because I wanted to have something that, she could be involved with as well, and be a part of, as an alienator.
Yeah, and let me ask you, Ricky, when you first put the band together, did you at all have any reservations about putting together a tribute band at all, or like a lot of people want to do their own original music? Was there any of that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I played original guitar, and it's the 90s. I was on a record label with a band. People really asked me to, and I got to tour and have trapping some JROCK stuff for a little while. And you take the time off and you raise a family to get built your career. And it just kind of takes its course. So
Yeah.
as far as being in the Duran band versus not being in the Duran, or in band or original or tribute versus cover, it's all relative, and you just gotta go where your heart takes you,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I got to tell you, part of the reason I started interviewing guys like you that play in the tribute band is, first of all, I've gone to many of these tribute shows, and I've enjoyed them, immensely. Like I'll give you an example. First time I saw this Guns N' Roses tribute, Hollywood Rose, the singer, he looks so dead on like Axl Rose from 1987 that I had to pinch myself for a minute. I'm like, am I at a Guns N' Roses show, or is this even though, in my head I'm like, okay, this is at the Whiskey, but, the band looked that good, they sounded that good, and at the end of the night I thought, this is probably the closest I'm ever going to get to see Axl Slash on stage. But it took me back there to, the first time I heard Welcome to the Jungle. It was you know, it was that kind of experience for me, and that's why I really love seeing these tribute bands. And then on the flip side, there's a huge percentage of people that have this misconception that, you know, guys like you that play in tribute bands or failed musicians, they couldn't make it doing their original music. And again, I know that's just not the case. So I love to allow, you know, talk to guys like you, and you know, allow you to kind of tell your story, because, you know, people realize that there's more. It's more than just slipping on a costume. Because to me, I'm not a musician. So first of all, for anybody to get up on stage and be able to even, you know, play a Duran Duran song, that takes a certain level of talent in itself, you know.
And you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, having been back in the day, having shared the stage with Guns N' Roses and Warren, Poison, and all these people, and hung around Motley Crue and Quiet Riot, I'm name dropping here, but
Yeah.
my resume goes way back.
Wow.
You know, I know the 80s were the best era for music. There's none better. And those bands, some of them work together, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
Some of them were as good as they were when back then, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
If you want that youthful 80s vibe, then you gotta go see these tribute bands. So I go see them all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of tribute bands. Atomic Punks are one of my favorites.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of Atomic Punks, you know, that's a great story in itself, because the guy is actually the singer in Steel Panther now. He was back in the day. He was a singer for Atomic Punks, and he briefly joined L.A. Guns, and he left L.A. Guns, of course, which was Tracy Gunn's band, to go back to do the Punks, because he was making more money paying tribute to, you know, David Lee Roth and Van Halen than he was when he was in L.A. Guns, and now he's in Steel Panther, which is kind of more of a tribute to the 80s, but they do original music, but it's kind of a spoof on the 80s, and he's, you know, laughing all the way to the bank.
That's absolutely correct. And Ralph Sand, I go back with Ralph Sand's Orange County days.
Uh-huh.
He was a Nightfall.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he went up to Hollywood. He got into the Atomic Punks, and I went and saw him in that band a lot of times with the original guitar player, Walsh was the guy, and then, and you know, Joe Lester, a lot of the photos that you say you like on our Facebook page were taken by Joe Lester's bassist.
Oh, wow.
Atomic Punks. So, you know, he did an absolutely insane thing, and the Steel Panther is just amazing.
Wow.
I love him.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of Bart Walsh, you know, I had the opportunity to talk to him, and you know, the thing about him doing the Atomic Punks is David Lee Roth actually came down and caught one of their shows, and he got the opportunity to join Dave's solo band for a few years as his guitar player, and now he's living in Nashville and, you know, producing other bands and working for Gibson Guitars. But you know, he got his start again, like you said, in the Atomic Punks, and it just goes to show you that you know, the opportunity can present itself, you know, like that. David Lee Roth coming to check you out, and hey, I need a guitar player. Want to come join my band? I mean, you know, that in itself is such a, you know, remarkable story.
Oh, it truly is. It truly is. But you know, we've heard other stories about the Journey guy and the Judas Priest guy, you know, and those are great stories. I mean, I just dig it. You know, I hope that someday, you know, Duran Duran actually takes notice of us and gives us a little, you know, give us a little pop. But great.
Yeah, that would be cool. Now, what is the hardest thing about what you do as far as putting on the show? Is it getting in the costume? Is it, you know, getting ready to go on stage? What's the toughest part for you guys?
Well, you know, it's really funny because people don't realize that there's as much effort put into a tribute band show as any original show or cover band show. It's a lot of effort. I mean, there's logistics, there's gear, you got to set it up, and, you know, most tribute bands don't travel with road crews and, you know, posses and things, so it's almost a lot of DIY stuff. And so, you know, you're setting up your own gear, you're tearing down your own gear, you're performing, and, you know, you're making sure everything's happening. And that's pretty much what it takes. I find the hardest thing is really just
as far as those people coming to your shows, do you find typically that they're the diehard Duran Duran fans? I mean, they're looking to see that you play every note the way John Taylor plays it. What's your experience with that?
Well, I'm finding out that there's a lot of guys that like Duran Duran that were in the closet back in the day.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there's an awareness of the level of talent that Duran Duran actually had that didn't get credit for because they were too commercial, similar to what Journey went through.
Yeah.
And but the reality is, if you don't have the songs and you don't got the jobs, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, Ricky, you're talking to a guy who typically listens to metal and hard rock, but I can't sit here and tell you that I never listened to a Duran Duran song, or I haven't heard Rio half a dozen times like everybody else, or Hungry Like a Wolf,
Right.
and you can't deny that.
My favorite band's rap right now.
Yeah.
I'm revisiting all their first 3 albums over and over again.
Yeah, and you can't deny that all those classic '80s tracks that they did, they've all got great hooks, and that's why they're still on the radio all these years later.
Absolutely, they just go on, and they will continue to do so long after Duran's gone.
Yeah, and now you're talking about I kind of myself, I look at Duran Duran. There's kind of like two eras. I mean, there's that great '80s stuff that everybody's heard, like Hungry Like a Wolf, and even the Reflex and Rio, and then you've got stuff like Ordinary World. That's a little more modern rock stuff. I'd say. Do you play anything like anything from the most recent albums in your set, or do you kind of stick to the classics?
We play all the classic hits for sure. We play a few classic deep cuts, but we also do You Gotta Play Ordinary World. It's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
You gotta do Come Undone. That's a beautiful song. And then Reach Up to the Sunrise, which is just a good tempo type of song. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta cover, like we just basically cover all the good songs. Absolutely.
And so I take it from you, Ricky, and just talking to you that before you even put this band together, that you were obviously aware of bands like Atomic Punk, so you had seen the success bands like that had. But once you started doing this and you put Planet Earth together, were you at all surprised at the kind of success you guys seem to kind of have right away?
Well, again, we're fairly new to the market. We haven't done the hundreds of shows yet, like Atomic Punk.
Yeah.
But we have had glimpses of the future, and we've done a couple shows where there's a couple thousand people, and it's just mind blowing. And yeah, it is. It's an amazing experience, and we keep looking to the future to be just as good. And we're just taking it as it comes. We're just trying to put the best product out there, and hopefully people enjoy it and keep coming back for more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point I'm making is again, people would typically think that, there might be more money to be made doing an original type of band, but I think a lot of people would equally be surprised that if you got the right musicians in your band and you guys got the, you got the look and everything down, that I think a lot of people would be surprised to find out it's a lot easier to, success might come a lot easier to a tribute band in many ways than if it might take you 5 or 6 years to have your first hit if you were doing the original band thing. A lot of guys have told me that.
Well, and there is some truth to that. I'm affiliated with a couple record labels that are always breaking new artists.
Yeah.
It's a tough road to hoe. But I'll be honest with you, again, it doesn't matter if you're playing new music, old music, covers, or originals, or what have you. I just think when you have the passion to play music, whatever you play, whoever writes or whoever plays it, it's in your soul, it's in your heart. And a lot of people are into, I'll be honest, there are people who are into it for the money.
Yeah.
Everybody in my band, you gotta get out there and give it 150%. You gotta enjoy what you're doing. You gotta have a passion for what we're doing. If you do, the rest will just fall into place. And it truly does.
Wow. And so, you guys have been, 3 years into doing this. I was curious, do you still find that you have to rehearse like before you have a gig coming up, or are you at the point where you pretty much know these songs and you can play them note for note?
Well, I heard an interview And, you know, you always got to keep up your jobs and resting on your laurels and giving people a show that's just, you know, half there. That's not going to cut it. You know, people, it's like I tell everybody in my band, it's not enough for me to be John Taylor.
Yeah.
I got to be John Taylor times 10. Because you know, John Taylor is John Taylor. I'm never going to be John Taylor.
Yeah, yeah.
So, in order to out John Taylor, I got to be him times 10. So, you know, no, there's no resting. You got to practice. You got to step up a song, and every note counts.
And does it ever get hard?
It's about accuracy, you know.
Yeah. And is it ever hard, like, of course you're paying tribute to Duran Duran, but when you're up on stage there, does it ever get hard not to kind of put your own spin on the tunes, rather try to stay really 100% true to the way they were originally played?
Well, yeah, I would love to get up there and do some Sheehanisms, but it doesn't fit into the picture.
Yeah, yeah.
It is hard to show a little restraint every now and again, you know, but luckily we picked a band whose performance is pretty, you know, good. I mean, a high level of ability. So it's always challenging to play it accurately from show to show.
And how often do you guys typically play out? Do you play out like a couple times a month, or does it just depend on where you get a gig?
Well, we've been pursuing this now for a couple of years, and we're just now starting to pick up a really good head of steam with regard to bookings, and we're averaging about 3 gigs a month.
Okay, that's not bad for a band.
We have more capacity to do more.
Yeah. And now I see again, looking on your Facebook page, that you've done some shows with like a Depeche Mode tribute, a Billy Idol tribute, a Cure tribute. As far as like doing this Duran Duran tribute, is it hard finding other bands that you kind of fit with, or has that been a problem?
No, those
Oh, okay. And let me ask you, Ricky. I got to ask you, as far as your nickname, Dizz. How did you come up with that?
Well, that's a carryover from the old glam rock days. I just kind of kept it. I actually retired it, and then I took it off and dusted it off and put it back into work.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Now, of course, Duran Duran looks a lot, they're a lot older and they look a lot different than they did back in their heydays. And everybody knows you guys are just a tribute band. But I was curious if, while you're out in the costume, you've ever been mistaken for John Taylor or anything like that?
No, I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. And so what's that like, when you guys come off stage? I imagine, you're walking around the club or arena or whatever. People must be coming up to you and tell you, how much they enjoy the show and that.
Yes, that's the best part of the whole thing, is get to hang out with the people that really appreciate what, the hard work that you're putting into the band. Absolutely. I love having my with their fans and hanging out with them, having a drink with them. I keep up with a lot of them. A lot of them stay in contact with us via Facebook or email. And, we just got to, you have to make yourself accessible to everybody, and then I try to do that.
Yeah, and how important of that is like the Facebook page to you? And that, I mean, that's like your main way of communicating with your fans. I mean, are you at all surprised at the kind of fan base that you built up, these last 3 years?
I actually am. I mean, we went from beginning of this year, we were at about 250 likes, and now we're just getting ready to break 1,000, which is just tremendous growth for us, in 6 months.
And so,
averaging about 100 likes a month.
So wow.
For me, that's just insane.
And so, you guys pretty much play locally. Do you ever get a chance to branch out and like go out of town or anything like that?
Right now, the only thing we've done out of town is we performed out in El Paso, but we're booked for we're flying out to Dallas in August. We're in San Francisco in August, and we're in Banning in August. So it's starting to get around. There's our agents working on some Oklahoma and Arizona gigs right now.
Yeah, another place I think you guys would go over well in is probably like a place like Las Vegas, because they've got a huge tribute scene and music scene, and all kinds of bands are just going out there. They got a great music scene there right now.
ultimate goal for me is to get a residency somewhere with this act. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, but I've actually talked to several tribute acts that have gotten residencies, and play even local places here in the Southern California area. And again, that's great money if you can get a gig like that,
Absolutely, and you just get tremendous exposure. You get treated like a king. I mean, it's the people, these venues that are booking these bands and putting in out quality entertainment for their clients and their customers are just really, they're really extending, like the way that, they treat the bands with, respect and treat them good, and that's, goes a long way.
And so let me ask you, Ricky, you ever get a chance to check out any of the, other tribute acts? You ever go check out any shows yourself during your downtime?
Oh, absolutely. I go to a lot of shows. I've seen probably 100 of them at this point, and I enjoy every one of them. I don't really ever see one but don't like. Just anybody that puts that kind of effort and hard work, I know what it takes. I have respect for it.
I mean, definitely. It kind of depends on the band, but again, I really enjoy bands like this because you guys are really you look the part, you sound the part, and when you do that, it takes people back to the time, like in your case when they seen Duran Duran or heard them for the very first time, or maybe they've seen them in concert for the very first time, and if your band's got the power to do that, more power to you. To me, that's what it's all about.
You're absolutely right, Jason. And we couldn't do that without the help of our friends and family and the support base that we do have. I mean, it's an amazing. We have so many people that are into it and behind it, and just help us out. We're very fortunate in that regard. I couldn't thank those people enough.
Yeah, and now let me ask you. I imagine you've heard of this TV show they have out there, Access TV's World's Greatest Tribute. Have you had a chance to catch that ever?
I actually don't have Access TV. I saw a little clip of it in a hotel room once when the Fleetwood Mac band was on there. It looked pretty cool. I threw our name into the ring with them, but we're not far enough along to have gotten on that show at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a few more years down the line, but the cool thing about them is, if you get on that show, it's really great exposure because it's national. It goes across the whole nation, and Ryan Seacrest is actually one of the producers that's involved in it. And so,
are you kidding? Wow.
And so the great thing is a lot of times they have like hard rock and like they had an Ozzy tribute. They have Leonard Skinner, but they have a little bit of something for every, because like last season they kind of branched out. They had a Frank Sinatra tribute, an Elvis tribute, Stevie Wonder tribute. So there's a little something for everybody, and that's kind of what I dig. And a lot of these bands, it's not just bands here in LA. It films like at the Roxy, but they have they check out tribute bands. They get submissions from all across the country, and like this guy that does Stevie Wonder, he came from Virginia last season, and I had a chance to talk to him, and he had a great story to tell. But so that's a great way for a lot of tribute bands to get get that national exposure.
Yeah, and it's really funny because we started this not really with world domination in mind, but just to be able to get out and get out and have a great time and play some good songs, and then all of a sudden it's growing into this bigger animal, and now we're kind of setting our sights on bigger and better things, such as getting higher levels of exposure, and you reached out to us, and you're our first interviewer, so it's pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, and actually, I got to tell you a cool story. I talked to the singer from Led Zeppelin, Swan Montgomery, and he was telling me a story when I interviewed him about that Robert Plant was actually aware of their band so much to the point that when they filmed the Celebration Day concert, a couple of years back in England, that he invited the whole him and the rest of Led Zeppelin. They actually were backstage and they got to meet the whole band. And he said, we're just a little tribute band from Hollywood, but it was cool to get that opportunity to go and meet the real Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Something like that someday ourselves. That'd be amazing.
You never know. You just got to stick with it, and again, I think it's great. What you're doing, because I say any success means different things to different people. But the fact that you guys are 3 years into this, you're obviously you're obviously doing something right. So I would just encourage you to stick with it, and even if even if like 5 more Duran Duran tributes pop up, over the next couple years, you guys were one of the first 2 here, one of the originators. So there's something to be said for all the bands that come after you.
That's true, and we're not looking at that as a 2, 3, 4, 5-year grow. I expect that Shelf Life band can be another 20 years. I think that we can do what the Atomic Punks have done and have 20, 25 years of shelf life. I think as the younger generation gets exposed to the 80s and they get fewer, I can't obviously afford tickets to Duran Duran at $1,000 a pop,
Yeah, the Atomic Punks. The Atomic Punks, like you said, is one of the longest running tributes out here. The only other one that comes to mind that's been around is probably as long as the Iron Maidens, which of course is an all-female tribute to Iron Maiden. And the thing with them is they've taken their show, not just locally but worldwide. I think they played Germany, Mexico. I think they might have even played Russia. So again, that's a band that started in Hollywood, and they've taken their show all around the world.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing story because I'm not even sure I even know of one all-male. That's successful as an all-female one.
Oh yeah, and I gotta tell you that I've seen the Iron Maidens a couple times in concert, and people can think what they want about all-female Iron Maiden tribute, but let me tell you, the lead singer, she can hit those high notes just as good as Bruce Dickinson. You'd almost think you were listening to Bruce Dickinson there.
Well, don't tell anybody out there in the Duran world that Iron Maiden is my favorite band.
Yeah, and let me ask you, being a rock guy, do you ever get slack from any of your friends about doing the Duran Duran thing?
No, not really. It's a kind of a mellowing day, so to speak. And I had 25 years to get my ears bashed out in my band. At some point, it's like I wanted to do something a little more, than just rock.
Yeah.
I wanted to diversify my playing, which I hadn't done for many years.
And I imagine
that in itself was about an 8-year transition to move away from rock and being able to efficiently play funk and disco and pop music. It's a different mindset.
Playing these pop tunes, like you said, it must be a great opportunity to kind of, branch out and musician and kind of, just keep your musical chops up in general.
Absolutely. And, using a lot of different techniques, using different songs, having a bass player, and rock bands. It was a bigger B-bass and a half-bass stack, and off you go.
Yeah.
I've got a full-on pedal board and, all kinds of on-board, off-board, inline, it's just crazy.
Yeah, and you were mentioning Planet Earth. The song was actually kind of the first thing you were exposed to. But I was curious, do you have a favorite Duran Duran album that kind of you hold this up and this is the one that really influenced you, or this is what Duran Duran's all about for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be Rio.
Yeah.
The title track is an amazing bass line.
Yeah.
Familiar with that, and it's so much fun to play live, and it's just go. It's got a lot of energy, and I really like that.
Yeah. And so I was curious, Ricky, have you ever thought about like putting together, like, even just so fans could buy something from you guys, like a live DVD or a CD or something like that, or even you guys going in the studio and kind of redoing some of the Duran Duran songs? Is that something you'd ever play around with, or you'd rather just keep it to the stage?
Well, we've actually recorded 8 of the songs on this studio, and we're actually working on going back into the studio to record another 16. And then also, we have hours and countless. Me and my buddy own a video production company, and we own a couple of broadcast cameras, so we videotape every show we do.
Wow.
Just for analysis or for clips on the Facebook, but and also pulling together a promo from all this footage.
Wow.
So we never know where stuff could end up at.
Yeah. How cool is that? And Wow, yeah, I could talk to you all day, Ricky, but I know you're a busy guy, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to do this. Maybe we could do it again. But like I said, the interview itself probably go up in a week or two. The minute it does, I'll be sure to let you know. But is there anything else you'd like to say before I let you go?
I'd like to say thank you for reaching out to us and giving us an opportunity to be a part of your series. That means a lot to us, and we appreciate anything that comes our way.
Okay, well, before I let you go, just